Guys, it's finally happened. After nearly 6 months of living in this new location, I have finally finished moving in.
You are not just a maniac. You're much more than that.
When you spend 1/3 of your life in one location, such as this tiny office, it's really important, I feel, to make it feel special, to set it apart, to make it feel a little bit different than all the other spaces in our life. And I've been trying to do that here for a while, but sometimes you have that paralysis by analysis. You want it to be perfect, and so you never really start. You ever had that problem? Well, I had that problem here. So as a result, my photo gear was spread all over the place. A lot of it was in our bedroom and everywhere. Finally, I'm there. I decided I was really gonna kick it into high gear, get these shelves finished, which was a major bottleneck. America. I bought this desk. I was gonna build my own. I have all the metal to build my own, but that just, I just came across this desk and fell in love with it. So that made things a little simpler. I've spent a lot of time kind of organizing and figuring out where everything goes. Everything has a place now. It's amazing how much better life is, how much more at peace you feel when your life is organized, you know where things are, everything has its place. I'm feeling good about the office, finally. So anyway, that's not what this video is about. I just wanted to tell you that. This video is about you guys and what you told me in the questions I asked you last month. I was super excited about all the responses I got when I asked you those questions. I just geeked out on your answers. So I hope you know I truly appreciate that interaction that we enjoyed from that. And absolutely, we're gonna do it again. So stay tuned. At the end of this video, I'm gonna ask you another question, again, to further entice or incite you to want to leave a comment. I will be giving away yet another camera strap from our friends at Hyperion Straps. So stick around to the end so I can ask you that question. In the meantime, we have a strap to give away. So let's take care of that first before I dive into some of your responses. We got 41 responses, so I'm going to choose a random number from our friend, the Google search. And yeah, give me a second. Random number. And we get our friend Nigel WCC. So Nigel, I'll be in touch. Overheated, my XT2, it overheated. I didn't know that could happen. Anyway, where the heck was I? I was talking about Nigel. Congratulations on this camera strap, but I also, coincidentally, wanted to talk to you about your comment. Since we're already talking about you, let's go straight to that one. In regards to my question, which is what is holding you back from creating the type of photography that you'd really like to be creating, Nigel says, I have the same fear as Danae in regards to editing. I would like to feel more confident in photo editing, and it holds me back from starting a YouTube channel. Yes, Nigel, that's a concern for many people, not just you and Danae, and I think a lot of people who watch this channel. So I'm gonna bring it up for the benefit of everyone. Even though I kind of already responded to you with my own thoughts in line, let's talk about it. The response I have actually, I feel like was addressed really well by somebody else in their comment, David Doucette. He said the biggest challenge that he's had to overcome in photography was the need to tweak every one of his family photos to the nth degree. He said, I was driving myself nuts with the raw files, trying to find the perfect color, contrast, white balance, tone curves, etc. for each and every photo, and knowing the hours of editing that lay ahead of me was keeping me from getting the camera out often. And you know what? I can totally identify with that. I think all of us can when we start doing Lightroom for the first time. We feel this need to just kind of edit everything, and we go way too far and spend way too much time on it. So David goes on to talk about how he was able to come up with a color profile in camera in Fuji's that he's super happy with, that keeps him from having to spend so much time editing, if any, and shooting in JPEG. Now, there are plenty of YouTubers who are going to shame you for thinking you can shoot in JPEG. And those people they're just trying to polarize the community because it brings them a lot of attention and views. And like sheep, we kind of go, yeah, okay. And we feel like we have to jump on one side or the other, which is absolutely, completely ridiculous. There are legitimate times where shooting in JPEG can be viable and important. And one of the most fundamental reasons why it's not even a reason that Tony Northrup brings up. In my mind, an important reason to shoot in JPEG is to get back to what photography is all about in the first place, what it used to be about. And that is your relationship with the world around you, and the camera as a tool, as a paintbrush, as a medium to capture it. And that being the goal, the end, the most important part of what we do, not spending hours in front of a computer. Sure, it's a great safety net. I'm not arguing that it's not. Absolutely, shooting RAW is going to give you the most flexibility. I still shoot RAW because I know I can just apply those awesome, luscious Fuji color profiles later and I don't lose anything. On the other hand, if you're not the type of person that wants to be on the computer, I see absolutely no reason why you shouldn't feel free to abandon that part of a workflow in favor of getting in touch with what photography is really about, and saving time, because time is a way more important and valuable asset than the ability to adjust a white balance in a photo, in my opinion. I talk a lot on this channel about creative constraints, about how important, how vital it is that we have constraints on our art as a way to free us. It's kind of like a kite, that you could see that string as something that's keeping a kite from flying as high as it could. But in all actuality, if it weren't for that string, that kite would be tumbling to the ground. And the same thing happens with art. We do need creative constraints, whatever those may be. I'm not saying that shooting in JPEG has to be one of those, but I am saying it could be one. That when we say I'm going to limit myself to one lens, to one color profile, to shooting in JPEG, to certain constraints, and I know that I'm not going to go outside of those constraints, it allows me to focus on what's most important. Your creativity will just explode if you can find the right constraints and the right projects to work on. So, in short, don't be ashamed of shooting in JPEG, and if that saves you time and helps you get in touch with what's really important, then by all means, shoot in JPEG, figure out the color profile once on your Fuji device, and then never worry about it again. The next thing I wanted to talk about was some responses to the question that I had, which is, what is the most meaningful thing that has happened as it relates to photography in your life? There was a lot of great comments. I wish I could talk about them all, but there's a few I want to highlight. One in particular was from somebody I really respect a lot and admire a great deal. He's another YouTuber who hasn't been at it for very long. He's across the pond, and he does landscape. His name is David Dixon. And David spends a lot of time not just focusing on superb landscape photography and the experience, the journey of getting there. These are a dime a dozen YouTubers that will do this sort of thing. But David takes a very interesting approach where he focuses on depression, anxiety, and his journey through overcoming those issues with photography and with art, and how that's changed his life. That really resonates with me. Depression is something that personally I have dealt with, but more importantly, I know some people who have been debilitated by it. And there isn't enough people really talking about it, making it part of our everyday acceptance, I guess, the ability to talk about depression and being able to support those who do. We still have some stigma against it, I think, and there's a lot that he's doing to help use photography to promote a healthy attitude towards it, and for that I admire, respect him, and I would say please go subscribe to David. He's doing great stuff. Related to that is another guy, a little bit odd. He says that he did a project with his ex-girlfriend where they wore boxes as heads. The purpose was to kind of reflect how everything appears so perfectly fine in the world, but people have no clue what's going on inside. So awareness to mental health issues in society. And so that's awesome. I think that that's the sort of thing that I was really looking for. How are people doing good with their cameras? I hear street photographers who will say, go out and do good with your camera. Sometimes I think that's a little silly for a street photographer to say. I'm not sure really how many lives we're going to change by going and taking photos of panhandlers, but there are legitimate ways to really affect people's lives for good with the camera, and here are two examples of people doing it. So you guys rock. Jan Helming talks about an experience he had that was very meaningful, where he had his first photos printed at a local shop, and how that owner really liked his work and encouraged him, and then started hiring him even, and how that grew to really help him to become a photographer. And I think that's awesome, and I can identify with that. Maybe not for being hired, but one of the very first family photos I took of my own family was before I really knew what I was doing with photography, and but I really wanted to get kind of an awkward family photo of my young family, and so we posed ourselves in this just ridiculous, well, I'll show you the photo, but anyway, the place we had it printed at loved it so much that they asked if they could put it up on their display, just kind of to advertise printing Christmas photos, and we were just totally flattered, and that did a lot to boost my own confidence as a photographer. Really was pretty pivotal in getting me into photography at a much deeper level. So that was my experience that I can identify with you on, and so thanks for sharing that. I really need to invest in like a proper package opener device method. I'm really excited about this. I've never really done a mail time type episode before, but we talked about meaningful photography that matters, and projects. I've talked about that before. My good friend Tony Reidsma, I think you say Reidsma, Tony. I've only read it, so I apologize if I said that wrong. But Tony sent us this, something I'm opening now and that I'm stoked about. So we're gonna all open it together. Tony undertook a project which is so up my alley. So much of what I've been preaching on the channel is to take photos that you can take and not get so caught up with the photos that you can't take. People in the comments get so caught up on the type of photography they can't take that they fail to see the opportunities around them. And Tony is somebody who found a way to photograph something meaningful with a constraint that some of us would not really enjoy, and that is the lakes of Michigan in the winter, which no thanks. Personally, I hate the cold, but props to you, Tony, for picking something that would keep you creative during those long winter months in harsh and hostile environments. This is, I think, the product of several years of that work. So, Tony, I'm excited to look through this. I'm just gonna flip the pages for our viewers so that they can kind of see. But I also put a link to Tony's book in the comments below. So Tony, I'm super stoked to get into this, to read it, to admire your work, and thank you so much. All right, well, that was a lot of fun, a ton of fun. I loved seeing all of your responses. I just totally geeked out on it. I'm looking forward to another one. Let's do this again next month. So I have a brand new question for you. Just like last time, I'll be giving away one camera strap to a lucky responder. So hopefully that'll help push you over the edge if you're deciding whether or not to answer a question or not. But this is the question I have for you for next month. And again, I am actually going to ask two questions. You don't have to answer both. You can just pick one to enter into the random drawing. But question one is, what is your favorite Instagram, or I guess the Instagram that inspires you the most artistically? Which one helps motivate you to just aspire to new levels of photography? One or two or whatever. Favorite Instagram, inspiring Instagram. Okay, next question. I told you that I got this fancy new desk that I'm really excited about, but I bought all this metal to weld the perfect kind of desk that I really wanted. But I'm stuck with all that metal now, and I need an idea, a welding project, but I want it to relate to photography, and I want to make a video out of it. So I've got all this angle metal, that's like L-shaped metal, and then square tube metal, and some other stuff. If you can think of an idea, a way for me to incorporate welding and photography to create something interesting that I could then photograph artistically, I can't think of anything, but I don't want to just be stuck with this metal and have it do no good. That's the challenge. Help me think of an idea. So I'd really appreciate that. Those are the questions that I have for you for next week. Like always, thank you so much for being friends of us and subscribing to the channel. You guys rock. Yeah, that's it. Remember, kindness before cameras. I look forward to talking to you again really soon.